It is Monday morning, 6:30 a.m., and you are in the bathroom getting ready for work. You flush the toilet, expecting the water to swirl and disappear as it has thousands of times before. But today, the water doesn't go down. It rises, bubbling angrily with a dark, murky sludge. You grab the plunger, thinking it is a simple clog, but then you hear a gurgling sound coming from the bathtub drain. Black, foul-smelling liquid begins to seep up through the shower drain, filling the porcelain tub with raw sewage. This is not a plumbing issue in your house. This is the beginning of the Great Backflow, a catastrophic failure of urban sanitation. In this simulation, we explore what happens when the pumps that move human waste away from our cities stop working. We assume gravity does the work, but in modern flat cities, gravity needs help from massive electric lift stations. To understand the scale, realize that New York City alone generates 1.3 billion gallons of wastewater every single day. This waste travels through 6,000 miles of pipes to 14 massive treatment plants that act as the kidneys of the city. Let's enter this collapse through the eyes of Joe, a senior operator at the Stickney water reclamation plant in Chicago. It is the largest wastewater treatment plant on Earth, a sprawling complex of tanks and pipes that serves 2.3 million people. At 7 a.m., a massive power surge, combined with a cyber attack on the SCADA systems, destroys the main lift pumps. These pumps are the size of houses, designed to lift the sewage from deep tunnels up to the treatment reservoirs. When the pumps stop, the flow doesn't stop. Millions of people are still showering, flushing, and running sinks. The sewage has nowhere to go but backward, filling the deep tunnels until they reach capacity and overflow. Joe watches the pressure gauges scream into the red zone as the deep tunnel system fills up in just 4 hours. He hits the emergency overflow release, diverting the raw sewage directly into the Chicago River to save the plant. By day 1, the crisis hits the basements of every home and business in the low-lying areas of the city. The sewer backup is the first sign of the apocalypse. Thousands of basements flood with 3 feet of toxic sludge. You come home to find your basement destroyed, the smell overpowering, forcing you to flee to the upper floors. But you can't use the water upstairs because every drop you put down the drain adds to the flood downstairs. By day 3, the streets begin to buckle as the pressure in the sewer mains exceeds their structural limits. Manhole covers, which weigh 300 pounds, are launched into the air like coins by geysers of pressurized waste. The streets of downtown Chicago, New York, and London turn into rivers of brown water, creating a toxic Venice. Cars try to drive through the puddles, stalling as the filthy water is sucked into their air intakes. The smell is not just unpleasant. It is a physical assault on the senses that causes nausea and headaches instantly. Methane and hydrogen sulfide gas, byproducts of sewage decomposition, begin to build up in the stagnant tunnels. Joe is wearing a full hazmat suit, trying to manually close valves to prevent the plant from exploding. He knows that hydrogen sulfide is deadly. One breath at high concentrations knocks you out, and the second breath kills you. By day 7, the public health crisis begins to escalate faster than any pandemic we have seen in modern times. We have forgotten that for most of human history, cities were death traps caused by our own waste. The floodwaters are filled with E. coli, salmonella, and the cysts of parasites like Giardia and Cryptosporidium. A child drops a toy in the puddle, picks it up, and puts it in their mouth. 12 hours later, they are in critical condition. Hospitals are overwhelmed with dysentery and cholera, diseases we thought were relegated to the history books. But the hospitals themselves are in crisis. They cannot sterilize instruments or wash sheets because the drains are backed up. The sanitary cordon is established around the major cities. The National Guard blocks the roads to contain the infection. You are trapped in a city that is slowly drowning in its own filth, with no fresh water and no way to leave. By day 14, the environmental impact turns the local geography into a dead zone for all aquatic life. Because the plants are bypassing treatment, billions of gallons of raw sewage are pouring into rivers and lakes. Lake Michigan, the source of drinking water for Chicago, becomes contaminated with a plume of waste visible from space. The fish die instantly from the lack of oxygen, floating to the surface by the millions, adding the smell of rotting fish to the air. Water treatment plants, which take in water from the lake, have to shut down because their filters clog immediately. The city runs out of drinking water, not because of a drought, but because the source has been poisoned. Joe has abandoned the plant. There is nothing left to do. The biological reactors that clean the waste have died. Without the constant flow of oxygen and fresh waste, the good bacteria that eat the sewage have suffocated. Restarting the biology of a treatment plant takes weeks of seeding new bacteria. It cannot just be turned back on. The city is now essentially a medieval fortress during a siege, waiting for a pestilence to finish it off. By month 1, the bucket brigade becomes the new morning ritual for every family surviving in the city. Since you can't use the toilet, you use a bucket lined with a plastic bag, the wag bag method used by campers. But where do you put the bags? The garbage trucks stopped running weeks ago, and the alleys are piled high. People start throwing the bags out of windows, creating mountains of hazardous waste on the sidewalks below. This brings the rats. The rodent population explodes, feasting on the unlimited food supply in the streets. With the rats come the fleas, and with the fleas comes the potential for typhus and even the plague. The night soil industry returns, a profession that hasn't existed in the West for a century. Men with carts roam the streets, offering to haul away your waste for silver, gold, or ammunition. They take the waste to the edge of the city and dump it in massive open pits, creating lagoons of biohazard. The wind carries the spores from these lagoons back into the city, creating a cycle of reinfection. By month 3, the infrastructure damage is becoming permanent as the concrete pipes begin to dissolve. Sewage creates sulfuric acid as it rots, which eats through concrete pipes in a process called crown corrosion. The roads above the pipes begin to collapse into massive sinkholes, swallowing cars and buildings. The structural foundation of the city is literally being eaten away by the acidity of the waste below. Joe has moved his family to a rural cabin, digging a latrine in the woods, far away from the concrete trap. He realizes that the flush toilet was the single greatest invention of civilization, and also its weakest link. It allowed us to pack millions of people into small spaces, hiding the consequences of our density. When the illusion breaks, the density becomes a death sentence, magnifying the speed of disease transmission. By month 6, the population of the cities has dropped by 40%, mostly due to dehydration and waterborne disease. The survivors are those who learned strict hygiene discipline, boiling every drop of water and sanitizing their hands. Bleach becomes the most valuable liquid on Earth, worth more than expensive wine or gasoline. If you have bleach, you can sterilize your bucket, your hands, and your water. If you don't, you die. The flight to the countryside reverses the urbanization trend of the last 200 years. People realize that a septic tank and a well are freedom, while a sewer connection is a dependency. The government attempts to airdrop water and chlorine tablets, but the urban canyons make distribution difficult. Drones spray disinfectant over the streets, trying to knock down the bacterial load, but it is a losing battle. By year 1, the cities are slowly being reclaimed, but they look very different from before. The sewer systems have to be completely dug up and replaced, a project that will take a decade and trillions of dollars. New buildings are required to have composting toilets and grey water recycling systems on site. We no longer trust the central pipe to take it away because we learned that there is no away. Away is just a word for downstream, and eventually everything flows back to you. The Sewage Stop taught humanity that hygiene is not a guarantee. It is a constant, energy-intensive war against nature. Joe returns to the ruins of the treatment plant, now a silent concrete monument covered in weeds. He sees the rusted pumps that used to lift a river of waste every day, silent and still. He understands that civilization is just a thin layer of plumbing over a chaotic biological reality. We are biological machines that produce waste, and if we cannot manage that waste, we cannot exist in groups. So, walk into your bathroom and look at the toilet. It seems simple. A bowl of water, a handle. But behind the wall is a machine as complex as a space station, keeping you safe from the dark biology of the city. If that handle stops working, do you have a plan for where the waste goes? Do you have a supply of heavy-duty bags, lime and bleach to manage your own sanitation? Or are you assuming that the magic pipe will always carry your problems away to a place you never have to see? The smell of the sewer is the smell of truth. It reminds us of what we really are. Tell me in the comments, if your toilet stopped working today, how many days could you stay in your house? I'll see you in the comments, washing my hands for the 10th time today.